Words. If it's the other way, where you maybe bringing in a physical good, and you say I'm going to make a 30% margin, you take your costs, you add your margin on top, your markup, and then your revenue is then fluctuating because your direct cost is your driver there. Fixed costs should be fairly straightforward and include sort of in the name, so you should be able to go out and get estimates for what rent might be. You'll know what your staff should be on, you should be planning any pay rises, that sort of thing. But like I say, when I mentioned before, for your Excel, it's good if you can build it to be easily manipulated. So you can come in and say, well actually, I'm going to have 3 staff instead of 2, you just put the 3 in and then the staff goes through. Maybe you might have recruitment costs. If you've got a formula that can work out when a new staff member's added and put a recruitment cost in your overheads, anything like that to make it easier. It's going to allow the conversation to go more quick if you do come under scrutiny.
Just to go back to the question as well, if you're developing and selling an app, you're probably not going to have too many costs of sale, other than it depends on how you're actually selling. So if you're selling through the likes of Amazon or Google or something like that, then obviously they're going to try and fleece you anyway, and there's some costs there, but that's not necessarily the basis for pricing, because pricing is often market driven anyway. So cost plus is a kind of traditional manufacturing type pricing mechanism. It doesn't always work in today's world now, particularly with the kind of audience that many of you will be trying to sell to now, where there's an expectation of a market price, and the key is almost sometimes to work out what the market will stand from a pricing point of view. You know, where's the value of what you're selling compared to something that's kind of complementary or competitive to you, and can you afford that price with the cost of sales that you might have and with the overheads that you might have. So there's actually, you know, trying to work in that price, it's actually sometimes a good idea to maybe try it both ways, to be honest. But getting the price is so tricky.
Sorry, from my point of view, obviously I haven't had any development experience or created an app before, so I want this to run smoothly.
Yeah.
I do know what the market, what competition is and what they're selling at, but what I don't know is how much it costs them for development, hosting, all those sort of things, which really you should be aware of before you get into this, because it's all well and good setting up a sell price for your clients, your potential clients, but if the costs outweigh that, then you're selling something.
Yeah, those are kind of your fixed costs, though, not you, because you're going to be hosting whether people are kind of logging on and buying it.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that, but those have got to be factored in. So I couldn't sell my software program for £1.
And yes, you need to understand those as well. So that's kind of researching those. Yeah.
Any other questions on this? Yeah.
How would you go about sort of estimating and forecasting the percentage of your revenue split and how your customers are going to sit there? Do you have to validate?
That is a good question. So you might do some market research on maybe something similar, but you have got to appreciate that this is going to be a lot of finger in the air stuff at the start. It's what you're expecting. So you might look at, like say, similar apps. You might have done some research yourself, maybe held some focus groups or anything like that. Whatever you like, it is a forecast. So as long as you've got some backing up as to that, rather than just absolute finger in the air sort of stuff, then it's going to give the investor some confidence that you've put the thought into it.
Have you done kind of market research? Have you touched on that with the workshops and stuff like that? So if you take that on board, to me, the last person that you ask for, don't ask your friends and family, because they all say it's brilliant and they'll buy everything, and then you just not get the truth out of them. But the bigger sample you can get, and there must be different techniques depending on what you're doing, and different sample groups, just literally try and get a feel for stuff, but take it with a pinch of salt. But that will both pitch into your pricing here, and also again, if you're going for investment, it will help underline the investor that you put some work into it, you put some thought into it, you've got some science and some data behind the numbers that you're putting in front of them. Like Nathan says, you don't know until you know. You don't know until you get in there. And probably what will happen is within 12-18 months of launch, pricing will be different, because you'll have found out what works and what doesn't. Yeah.
So at this early stage, how long are you kind of expected to forecast on a monthly basis? Because I guess as you go past 12 months, it kind of gets to go finger in the air. So are you expected to do a monthly forecast for 3-5 years at this stage, or what is something that's actually what
That-
investors
that-
should look at?
That's again, it depends what the purpose is. So if you're not getting investment, it's just for you. Then 12 months should probably do it, because like you say, anything beyond that is, you know, is there any value in it to you as information and sort of use your time? If you're looking for external investment, they will probably want to see 3 years, because they want to see you growing the business. They want to understand your journey there, and you know, what's your marketing, how you're going to develop the business, how you're going to develop products over at least that period of time. If they ask for 5 years, then they're idiots, by the way, but for 3 years.
Sweet. So yeah, this is sort of just what we've discussed there, but broken down a bit more granular. I think maybe something that we should then cover is around how it ties into the compliance side of things. So, you know, we're talking about, you know, if you're going to bring some employees in, so you've got to submit your RTIs, which is your real-time information to HMRC every month, which basically is the gross salaries, how much income tax is coming up, how many national insurance contributions are being made, also pensions, which everyone now needs a pension scheme to be automatically enrolled in. Canada out for one, so that should be in there. You need to be able to keep this in your forecast for your deadline, so it's the 22nd of the month after the salary's been paid. All this should be filtered in, because your national insurance, there's going to be employers, which is a cost, so that's going to affect your profits. But like I say, it's going to tie back to your cash flow as well. So you've got to remember that the gross salary's coming out, you're going to pay the net, so that everyone's seen your pay slip where you've got your gross, then all these lovely amounts to take off to pay to HMRC. It's the employer's responsibility to get them over, and it is going to affect your cash flow. And then, you know, as we said, you've got your VAT. So if you're VAT registered, you'll have to prepare a return every quarter, and that's the net of any VATable sales that you've made. Then you've got that's your output VAT. You've got your input VAT, which is any VATable purchases that you've made. That net amount is then reclaimable or payable to HMRC every quarter. What you might find in startups is you're not going to make sales for a while. You've become VAT registered, you're actually getting money back from HMRC every quarter, because your input VAT, basically there's no output VAT to net it off. And it's just a good way to sort of not take that VAT hit as a startup business.
How long can you do that for before they start to?
Good question. They do say, when are you going to start making sort of VATable sales?
Yeah, the one to be comforted that you're actually going to be a trading organisation before they give you the VAT registration. We have had one knocked back recently based on that, although I've not really seen him argue it too much. But I'd say
Minimum turnover, is it? 30 grand?
it's nothing to do with it. You can voluntarily register at any time, and like Nathan says, if you're not making any sales yet, so you've got no VAT to hand over, but you're in a position where you can reclaim that on expenses, then it's potentially worth giving it a go. And again, it depends on your audience as well. So if you're selling an app, who you're selling to, it's generally in a business to consumer market. That's just gonna, if you're selling in the UK, that's just gonna kind of either take off your profit or add to your price. So it's not a good idea until you get there. If you're business to business, then who you're selling to is generally going to be VAT registered, so they can reclaim any VAT that you're charging. So yeah, get registered as soon as possible. B2C app selling, though, you tend to be selling in the UK, you're selling in France, you're selling in Germany, you're selling in the States. There's all sorts of weird and wonderful VAT implications around that as well. And it's going to get messy after, not necessarily after January the 31st, but after we've gone through the transition period. And beyond that, there's various simplification methods at the moment for accounting for VAT within the EU. And once we're out of that, those methods won't be available to us.
So yeah, just like it's £85,000 sales over any 12-month rolling period. That's your VAT registration threshold. So if you go over that, HMRC are going to ask if you become VAT registered. So like say when you're building up your forecast, you start hitting that cumulative sales amount in a 12-month period. That's when you need to start factoring in VAT amounts into your forecast. So taking off 20% of your sales, reclaiming 20% of your purchases that are VATable, and then having that net amount as a payable every quarter out of HMRC based on whatever stagger that you sign up for. So it's every 3 months, but obviously every business could be one of those 3 month stagger, and that feeds into your cash flow. Dead easy to forecast though, because HMRC do have very strict deadlines, so a month and 7 days. After your quarter end, that's when the payment needs to be made, or that's when you're going to get it back. So you know to miss a month and then put the cash inflow or outflow in your forecast in the month after that. In terms of R&D tax credits and corporation tax, so your corporation tax is annual. HMRC only like to work with 12-month periods. You might have a long or a short accounting period. When you start up, that will require, if it's a longer period, a 12-month tax return, and then a 6-month, a 2-month. What you might find when you're a startup business is you've incorporated sort of halfway through a month. So your first financial period is actually a year and 7 days. A lot of people get quiet with this as well. You've got to do 2 tax returns, 12 months and a 7-day one, and they will just slap the fines on you if you miss the 7-day deadline. In terms of corporation tax, the current rate is 19% of your profits. It's your profits before tax. There is some added and subtractive items that we won't go into now, sort of stuff in your capital allowances on fixed assets and that.
Is it going down?
Scrap that.
Yeah,
Scrap that.
Boris scrapped
Yeah,
it.
Okay.
And then we'll see what happens in the budget in March.
Yeah, so we're all on the edge of the seats for that. It was going to go down to 17%, but Boris scrapped it during the election. So yeah, if you make a lot of losses in your first years though, which is quite expecting startups, it's not all doom and gloom. You can carry them forward against future profits to sort of negate your tax bills. So if you had a